end up beating the Broncos 23-20. LA is 3-0, and like I talked about last week, I mean, they're a good-looking team, especially when you consider the improvements they've made defensively. Obviously, you have Justin Herbert. They're a really good-looking team right now, and it's still so early in the season. 3-0 is, you could win 3 games now and lose the rest of them, right? But I definitely think, like I said about inspiring confidence, if you're LA, you're just riding the wave. You're just going to keep winning until somebody stops you. And I think that's really good when you're looking for a team that I think kind of had a disappointing exit last year in the playoffs. They're definitely looking to inspire some confidence and to come in and say, we are that team, we have that ability to perform and to be successful. And I think if you're LA, you got to be very happy with that. The Broncos have had a tough start to the season, not been how they wanted. I still think they're a great defense. Bo Nix will get there. Just a little bit of a slump. It's been a tough schedule. They'll figure it out, I think. But obviously, you want to start better than what they've started. And probably the most shocking upset is the Browns upsetting the Packers with a 13-10 win. I did not have that on my bingo card. I highly doubt anyone else had that on their bingo card. The Packers have looked like one of the best teams in the NFL past couple of weeks, so to come in and lose to the Cleveland Browns, it really says two things, and it's that, like people are saying, anybody can beat anybody on any given day, right set of circumstances, and it also says that the Browns have a hell of a defense. I mean, they really do. To come in and hold a very, very, very good Packers team, that's a really great showing. And I think if you're the Browns, you're sitting back and looking, what can we do with this defense? How can we get this offense going to get what we need to get win-wise? Obviously not the best start to the season that they could have wanted, but I definitely think you're looking at that defense and saying, what could we do? Make the playoffs? Tough division? I don't know, but we'll see what ends up happening there. One of the most exciting upcoming games is the Chiefs and the Ravens, Sunday at 4:25. That's a really interesting one because they're both 1-2, and somebody's going to leave there 1-3, either the Chiefs or the Ravens. And I don't know who it would be a little bit more disappointing for, but that's one of those games that there's only one winner, or they tie, but probably only one winner 9 times out of 10. Well, not probably, it is 9 times out of 10. So that's going to be really interesting to see who wins. And even if neither of them have had the start to the season they could have wanted, and playing this early is going to be tough. They can still get there. It's not the end of the world, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to inspire a lot of questionable conversations on the internet. So we'll see what ends up happening there. We also have the Colts and Rams, 4:05. I think that's a really interesting matchup. See if the Colts can kind of keep this wave of Daniel Jones's resurgence going. And if you're the Rams, you're 2-1, you lose that close game to the Eagles this past weekend. I think they're really looking to establish themselves, and apparently now the Colts is a really good win. So I think that would be a really good kind of answer back after the Eagles. You're 3-1, but I don't think enough people are talking about the Rams. I think they are for sure a Super Bowl contender. I think they were right. They came closer to beating Philly than anyone else did. People forget that. And, win by 1, win by 100, it's still a win. Same thing for losing, but to be that close, and I think they got better over the summer. They're better this year than they were last year. If Matthew Stafford can keep it up and they can stay healthy, I definitely think that they are for sure a contender for the Super Bowl. So the main point that I really got this past weekend was, last year we talked about the year of the comeback, or the year of the comeback quarterback. We saw that with Sam Darnold. He's labeled a bust. He goes into Minnesota, leads them to like 14 wins. We see the same thing with Baker Mayfield. Both of them came in and had amazing seasons. And, you look at conversations that this kind of inspires about how important is the quarterback and how important is the situation. Because you look at these quarterbacks and say, so-and-so that's not winning games here, if you put him somewhere else, he probably could win games, and vice versa. When C.J. Stroud won Rookie of the Year, all the conversations were, if C.J. was on the Panthers, would he be as good as he was on the Texans? And would Bryce Young be better on the Texans than on the Panthers? I don't know the answer to that. I think the answer is probably undoubtedly yes. I think Houston has a much better organization than Carolina did and does. But you still never know. There's a lot of questionable elements there. But I just think it's so fascinating. You look at Carson Wentz. I mean, this was a guy that nobody really wanted. Came in and blew out the Bengals 48-10. Marcus Mariota operated the Commanders' offense with Jaden Daniels out supremely. And I think that's just part of they're so similar. Marcus Mariota is probably the closest backup to being a starter, I think, right now. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl, but there's a lot of teams out there that could do a lot worse, are doing a lot worse than what Marcus Mariota can give you. I still think he has some moves, and he has clearly shown that he has gas left in the tank. And I think if you're Washington, you're looking and saying, let's give Jaden Daniels some time. Let's make sure he's fully healed up and not rush him out there. And you can be happy knowing you have Marcus Mariota coming into the upcoming weekend. But, you know, Sam Darnold is doing great in Seattle. He's kind of continuing that trend. Obviously, Baker Mayfield is doing well. Bryce Young comes back, 30-0 win over the Falcons. And I just think we're seeing a lot of quarterbacks that people have kind of written off come in, be successful, and have that moment in the sun. You know, like I talk about with the Colts, Daniel Jones 3-0. And I think him and Carson Wentz are very similar. They're both very physically gifted athletes who can do a lot of really great stuff on a football field, but then things get tough when the plays break down. They make these just bonehead, dumbass decisions, and that's where they really run into trouble. But if they can lock in and make the decisions that they need to make and be smart and not be a dumbass, they can be very successful quarterbacks, especially when they have the weapons that they have in Indiana and especially in Minnesota and with the coaching of Kevin O'Connell. Minnesota just makes quarterbacks better. I'm fairly convinced you could put pretty much any starting quarterback there and they would at least be solid because they are just amazing the way they have built that. And I think that's just a testament to that organization and to build a system that you can say, hey, bring whoever you want in, and they are going to succeed here. And that's something that if you're looking at a big free agent quarterback, if you're looking something like that, that's something quarterbacks look at and say, hey, I want to go there. Building that organization that players want to play for, not that are made to play for because you're paying them, obviously. But yeah, I think it was a really interesting weekend for the NFL. A lot of blocked punts and kicks, apparently. I don't know what that's about, but that's fascinating in and of its own self. But we got a lot of really cool stuff coming up, so stay tuned. We're going to talk about it. And yeah, that's all I got for this.